I made the consoles race each other in another video, so now I'm gonna make them fight. 3DS versus PS Vita versus Game Boy Advance. Okay, let's talk weapons, knives, hammers. This looks kinda dangerous. How about we just play some fighting games on the 3DS? Super Street Fighter 4 3D Edition. When this game came out, I remember trying it out at my local GameStop, and I thought it looked amazing. I had the game on the Xbox 360, and I thought, now I can play it on the 3DS, the console version, and in 3D? The game was a launch title on the 3DS, and of course the 3D effect was the main selling point of the game. And the 3D effect looked really good in the game. The touchscreen has combo shortcuts as well. The game has a multiplayer, and it has Spot Pass. But the main difference in the 3DS port is the new 3D Versus. It's not just using the stereoscopic 3D, but changes the camera angle to a dynamic view to give a unique experience on the 3DS. It's fun to try out this mode and also supports multiplayer. The game has a Super Street Fighter 4 story, the arcade mode, it has online, and there's also a figure collection mode that uses the 3DS's Spot Pass to acquire figures, and then you use them to fight against others. Overall, it's the best way to play this game portably. The game showcased what the 3DS was capable of, and maybe it was a sign of great games to come, even if the 3DS had a rocky start. Which transitions into the next game, Dead or Alive Dimensions. I've never really played a game in this series too much, and playing the 3DS, the game is great. It has really good use of the 3D effect, which is always a plus for me. Even the loading screen has a 3D effect, and the CGI cutscenes. The story starts off with a fighting competition on a cruise ship, and the final fight against the champion is revenge for him killing your dad. And just like that, the game is over. Just kidding, that was all just chapter 1. The first chapter has tutorials throughout the game, and incorporates them into the story. The graphics are really good, and the mechanics of the game are unique. There's combinations of hits and blocks to target the lower upper body of a character, so if they're guarding, you can go for the arms, or go for a grab. The locations also have some interactions like falling down this high bridge, which later on in this cutscene is made to be like a big deal if she falls off the bridge, like I didn't just push her off a few minutes ago in the fight. I like the way the game incorporates the story into the fighting, and even though the 3DS entry was in a mainline Dead or Alive game, it's worth a try. Okay, so, there's been a lot of Dragon Ball Z fighting games on the Nintendo portable consoles over the years, and the 3DS is no exception. Dragon Ball Z Extreme Butoden is a game made by the same people as Dragon Ball FighterZ, and when it first came out, I picked it up right away because I was excited to play a new Dragon Ball Z fighting game on the 3DS. And back then, I didn't end up playing it as much, and going back to it now, it's a fun game, and the art style and visuals are great. I wasn't a big fan of the Japanese voices in the North American version, but it wasn't the biggest deal ever. I didn't mind it back on the Attack on Saiyan's game on the DS. The game has a main Dragon Ball Z story, which is pretty default. The same Dragon Ball Z story mode I've played 1,000 times, and I think that was the issue. Dragon Ball Z games have been done so many times that when a new fighting game came out, it felt generic. After Budokai Tenkaichi, I didn't hear many people praise the following games, except for die-hard fans. Games like Burst Limit or Raging Blast. Now granted, those are console games, so I would need to compare this to a game in the handheld universe. And as far as the 2D fighting games go, Super Sonic Warriors 1, Super Sonic Warriors 2, there was never any bad 2D fighting Dragon Ball Z games on the DS or the GBA. Never mind. Extreme Butoden is still a fun game. The combos are fun to perform, and then the special moves are visually impressive, and you can see the Fighter Z prequel style in the game. The modes are a bit lacking, and I think that's what people didn't really like. Other Dragon Ball Z games had something unique in the terms of game modes or strategies, and even though this one focused on the fighting tactics, maybe it was a bit too early and a bit too limited on the 3DS, because Fighter Z went on to be a fan favorite, especially for online matches. I also think I didn't get into Fighter Z too much. I think I just preferred the wacky Dragon Ball Z fighting games like Tenkaichi and Xenoverse, where it's a 3D style flying around and destroying everything and energy blasts happening all over the place. But in true fighting game style, the next game is a classic fighting game, Tekken 3D Prime Edition. Another game with really good graphics on the 3DS, and this game also runs at 60 frames per second, even with a 3D on. The game also includes a Tekken movie. Tekken 3D Prime has a few modes: survival, quick, versus, and multiplayer. The multiplayer was, I imagine, the focus. It had local and online, and you would collect Tekken cards with Spot Pass as well. There's hundreds to unlock in the game, and it did lag a little bit in the single player mode, and with the multiplayer servers down, the game replayability suffers a bit, unless you just want to play against the CPUs. The movie part includes Tekken Blood Vengeance, which is a full 1.5 hour movie. A nice bonus that you don't really get to see nowadays. The game itself is Tekken. You got the bear, and all the other characters. The survival mode is fun. You have to defeat enemies without healing, and for the most part, I just spam a few moves, but obviously the difficulty can be increased as well as the amount of characters you have to defeat. The game included 40 characters as well, in the terms of pure Tekken fighting, it'll definitely meet the itch if you're a Tekken fan. Well, I think that's about it for today. Oh, I forgot about the console fight. Oh no, I forgot to put the weapons away. The horror.